in the United Socialist Utopia of California.
Ugh,
Gavin
where do we
Newsom.
start?
Okay, so he wanted to change the rules. They had a commission that would appoint and gerrymander. Tell us about this lawsuit.
You know, it wasn't even illicit. They are flat out publicizing what they're trying to do and why they're trying to do it. They're trying to create seats based on race, and they can't do it. And we're going to hold them accountable just like any other state. I mean, they very publicly said, Sean, what they're trying to do, and it's illegal gerrymandering. They cannot do it. So, yeah, we sued them today. We're going to continue suing California until they start complying with the laws of our country.
Isn't she nice? Pam Bondi, our Attorney General, on Sean Hannity, talking about suing California over the gerrymandering, the redistricting that just passed by Prop 50, as you know, overwhelmingly passed, as California has realized that the rest of the country, that their rights try to be taken away, and they took the brave stance to fight that. But here's the thing. She's not suing other states. We know Texas did it. Texas clearly broke up brown and black voters in multiple cities to create 4 districts for Donald Trump. Utah tried it. Tried to break up Salt Lake City to multiple districts. Indiana's threatening to do it. Ohio is threatening to do it. And here we are in Missouri, my home state, where we're going to talk a lot of today. So today's show, I'm going to use my home state right here in the heartland of Missouri, America, to talk about just how ludicrous their arguments are and how transparently full of shit they are. Because the fact is, Republicans are trying to keep Donald Trump in power, keep the House in their control by simply gerrymandering illegally, redistricting in the middle of a decade. Now, why is that important? It's what their opponents want you to do, folks, is talk about gerrymandering. And what you're going to see is the arguments. And we're going to have some Republicans probably drop into our chat here. And by the way, welcome everybody to the chat. Saying, oh, look, Democrats do it. Look at Illinois. Look at what California's doing. They're gerrymandering. Folks, this is not about gerrymandering. I know that's the argument. It's about illegal redistricting in the middle of a decade. Okay? The laws are clear in most states. You redistrict once per decade after new census. That's it, unless something came up. Maybe they were sued because the laws, the districts they drew were illegal. That's happened in multiple states. Whatever it may be, you don't just say, F it. Donald Trump needs a new seat. And that's exactly what they did here in Missouri. After Representative Emanuel Cleaver criticized Donald Trump for multiple reasons, he called up the governor of Missouri, Mike Keogh, and said, I want new districts. Get rid of Cleaver. And miraculously, they did this to Kansas City. I'm going to show this a lot. You're probably going to see this a lot during the show, but I can't stop emphasizing how important this is. This is what they've done to Kansas City. Whereas that had just been, that middle part was just a district. They've now broken it into 3. And we're going to talk to our guest more about that, what they've done. But I want you to see that one vertical thin line on the left side of your screen. That little thin strip is a district that goes all the way to the border of Arkansas. Okay? Downtown Kansas City, an urban environment, historically black neighborhood, has been redistricted to go all the way down to the border of Arkansas. That's going to be key in our conversation for the next half hour, 45 minutes. So with that, I'm sorry I subject you to the Pam Bondi's voice. It hurts my ears too. I actually had like 3 other clips teed up of her, but I just don't want to do that to you on a Friday night. It's cruel and unusual punishment, and that's not what we do here at the Midas Touchdown. You get the message. She is full of it, right? They are clearly trying to get Donald Trump from being investigated, and we know what happens when that happens. We know it's coming. The end is coming, folks. And keep up your hope, keep your breath. But that, I'm excited about our guests. This is going to be a little bit more nuts and bolts show than we normally do, but I really want you to understand what's happening in my home state so you can understand what's coming in yours and you can fight it like we do. Just know your state laws and your constitution, and that's how you fight. So with that, I'm Fred Wellman. This is On Democracy, FP Wellman, right here on the Midas Touch Network every Friday night. I'm thrilled to have you guys here with me. Let's get on the show. Welcome back. Yeah, I know your skin's probably crawling from all those clips of Pam Bondi. I get it. I apologize for ruining your Friday night with that voice, but here we are. And it was very important we hear these clips of how the DOJ is reacting to what are obviously illegal things. not being addressed. And so I wanted to kind of take you, as I mentioned in the intro, I'm from Missouri. Part of the whole story of this show is I try to give you guys a perspective from the heartland of the country of what we're dealing with. And you'll hear from my guests too, saying how, Missouri is such a place where MAGA has been experimenting with what they can get away with for a long time. If you don't know, Missouri has a supermajority Republican legislature, both the Senate and the House. They don't even need the Democrats to do what they want to do, which is part of the story that leads us to today's focus. And today's focus, obviously, is illegal gerrymandering, because that is the topic of the day across the country. Yeah, we've talked about the shutdown. We've talked about the insanity. We'll probably talk about them blowing up boats in the Caribbean later. But right now, this battle is ongoing. And I really want to kind of focus right here in Missouri. I don't do this often where I get Missouri focus, but we got a big Missouri focus today. And I'm thrilled to welcome a guy named Richard von Glahn. Richard is the executive director of People Not Politicians. He is a long-time labor organizer with SEIU since 2012. You've worked jobs with justice, organized political, 10 ballot initiatives in Missouri alone. Your bio is an activist bio, Richard. It's great to have you on the show. I'm a fan of your work. It's the first time we've met. I'm so glad to have you on Democracy and the Midas Touch Network. Welcome to the show, brother.
All right. Thanks for having me, Fred. Happy to be here.
So, okay, I guess we could set the stage. I'll let you set the stage, because a lot of people, they know Missouri is this place they fly over. Let's take everybody back to the beginning of this. Donald Trump is desperate. He gets Texas to gerrymander. He calls up Governor Mike Kehoe and says, hey, I need a seat. Oddly, just weeks after Congressman Cleaver criticized him, strangely, he decides they need to get rid of Congressman Cleaver. I'm making all this up, of course. But from there, what happens in the Missouri legislature?
Yeah. So initially, the Missouri legislature actually balked at this idea. You had Republican leaders saying, no, we've already done redistricting. We do it once a decade. We're done. We're not doing this. And then, a week later, you start seeing people beginning to fold and saying, oh, okay, maybe we should do this, or let's give it a try. And then, by September, you see them moving into special session to be able to do this. I'll say, as soon as they announced ideas to do this, we started hosting community meetings, standing room only community meetings, of giving people an opportunity to speak out against this. You had headlines of, number one call flooding governor's office is saying, don't do this. So what do? They call a special session anyway.
Yep.
What happens? The largest rally in the history of the state was the thing city, this. And what do? They pass a map that they didn't even make a single change to what the initial map that was introduced. And they jam it through the House and they jam it through the Senate. And they think their work is done. They say, okay, we did what we were asked. We've done the thing. But in Missouri, Missourians for 150 years have had a constitutional right to a thing called a referendum, which is where if we gather enough signatures from outraged Missourians about an act of the General Assembly, we get a chance to vote on it. We get a chance to say, yay or nay on what the legislature did. And so when they finished passing this bill, within about 2 hours after that, we filed the paperwork to launch a referendum. And they passed the bill on a Friday, and on Monday we started collecting signatures.
And let's talk about that different. I've actually got the map. I'd love to. So let's talk about what they passed and why it's significant. Does that make sense? So and then we'll talk about how we're fighting. And so here's the map. On your right, on your left, folks, is the new map, I guess. And right, yeah, that's what it is. So the old map right here on the right. So on the right's the old map. On the left is the new map that got kind of screwed around a little bit, I believe. Am I correct on that? I think so. Either way, the key here is let's go to this part instead. So this is Kansas City. That's the focal of it all, isn't it, Richard? Kansas City, splitting up Kansas City is where the action is, isn't it?
Yeah, this targets the city of Kansas City, splits it into thirds, puts northern Kansas City in the same district as people in the northeastern corner of Missouri on the Illinois-Iowa border, over 250 miles away, moves some people down through the Lake of the Ozarks, 120 so miles away, and puts other people in Kansas City in the same district as students at Mizzou, which is both
across the state.
100 miles away. So it really divides Kansas City up and, puts them with other people in the state who have different interests and different needs in their representation than what Kansas City has.
And that was the goal. The goal was to get rid of Emmanuel Cleaver's 5th district. You see the 5 there in the middle, which had been just a very, you can see it was that little blue circle. That was a very blue district that was Emmanuel Cleaver's. And now they've split it up into 3 different districts all the way down up to borders and states. Now, one of the things that we do talk about a lot is that line right there. Okay. That vertical line next to the state border. And that's Troost Avenue in Kansas City. Can you tell our viewers and listeners why is Troost Avenue so significant and why that's causing a lot of angst about this map?
I mean, Troost Avenue is a historic racial dividing line, a redlining line that was done in Kansas City. And so anyone who's familiar with Kansas City can look at that and say, this is no accident as to why they picked that line. And look, they are targeting Emmanuel Cleaver, who is the first Black mayor of Kansas City and former chair of the Congressional Black Caucus. So that is the individual that they are targeting. But I would really say when I talk about the 5th district, I don't talk about it as Emmanuel Cleaver's district. I talk about it as the people of Kansas City's district. Kansas City has been represented from somebody from Kansas City for over 120 years. It is that the people of Kansas City have chosen Emmanuel Cleaver in recent elections, but it really who this is targeting is those residents of Kansas City. And by drawing it down Troost Avenue, they are also particularly targeting the power of Black residents, Black and brown residents in Kansas City, and trying to dilute their influence and representation in this district.
It's shocking when you see it. And it's also kind of shocking in their obtuseness when they created it, right? It's like everybody, anybody who knows Kansas City, is familiar with it, that has always been a thing. When the redlining existed, some would argue still does in many ways, Black residents were not allowed to buy houses to the west of Troost Avenue. That line you see, they've created, and by the way, that district, folks who aren't familiar, that district, that little line of downtown Kansas City along the Missouri River shoots all the way down to the Arkansas border. I mean, you're talking 200, like 150 miles, folks. I mean, it's ludicrous beyond measure that they would do this, but then they use the historic racial dividing line to do so. It's so obvious to even the most casual observer what they're trying to do here, right? I mean, this isn't a coincidence, is it?
No, I mean, there are no coincidences in this. Look, this map, I'm certain was drawn in DC by professional gerrymanders. And
Right.
Look, they'll talk about it. They talked about it in the debate as, we're intending to do a partisan gerrymander. That is what we are wanting to do. That's exactly what they did.
And there's
when you
the way these things are laid out. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
I mean, I was going to say, like, when you ask Missourians, and that's part of what we've been doing, should partisan gerrymandering be a thing? Should that be a legal thing? People saying no. And it doesn't matter if they're Republicans, Democrats, independents as voters. The idea that politicians should pick their voters instead of voters picking their politicians, is overwhelmingly rejected by people who just want a chance at fair representation in Congress.
Right. And that's what I've heard as I go around in my own neighborhood and as I meet people. And I want to get, before we break for our sponsors, there's something really key here too. So for folks, I didn't know this, but I learned a lot, by the way. The way they lay out these districts, the way the law looks, it's like 19 pages and it's not a map. They don't actually submit a map per se. And one of the funny things about this whole thing was the governor was actually selling this using like a PowerPoint slide. It wasn't we didn't get a detailed map until after it passed. So folks, the way these laws are passed, they lay out the lines in a descriptive language, which I won't show you because it's like a Word document. And they lay it out with lines, and it goes either like very broadly, like all of St. Louis County will be in District X, right? Or districts, like political district 1, 2, and 1, 3 going 4, So one of the interesting things that came out after they passed this is that in those layers and layers of 19 pages that were never actually read, right? They rushed this through so fast, they created this. So for those, what you're looking at right now, folks, is the new lines. And when they wrote the law, they included KC 811, which is a small little a voting district, whatever they call it. It's in 2 districts in the law. The law they passed in a hurry, they put at least a triangle of like, well, I think it's a couple thousand people, right, Richard? Are in now by law in 2 different districts, right? Richard, I mean, isn't that one of the things that tells you they had the people here didn't even look at it, did they?
Yeah, I mean, the bill is actually, when it was introduced, I mean, I think it's 164 pages, and you're right. What it does is it just lists every precinct. It says congressional district this will include every precinct, and then when you actually get into it, you look at it and you say, oh, they put KC 811 in 2 different congressional districts, and so, what are those voters supposed to go when they go? Are they voting in the 3rd or are they voting in the 4th? It is great evidence of when you have a rushed process, an undemocratic process, mistakes are going to be made. And
Yeah.
this is a clear mistake, but it's, that's what happens when you don't fully vet things.
Yeah, they didn't hold hearings. They used a petition. I won't get into inside politics here because you guys, it's hard. But the bottom line is they jammed this through. They didn't use the usual legislative process to enshrine in Missouri law. They just jammed it through, and this is what we ended up with. I think it's a great place because I'm going to take a break, Richard. I want to come back and talk about where you guys are at, what's happening. There's obviously a lot of lawsuits and all. So let's take a moment break. We got great sponsors of the show, Shopify and Dupe. 2 of my favorite sponsors ever. So we'll be right back with more discussion on this crazy situation in Missouri. Have you ever found like the perfect thing online that will just make you look spectacular and fit your house, or, it just clicks, right? And you click on the price and then pass out, I do that all the time. And that's why I use dupe.com. I've really fallen in love with this site. And all you got to do is type dupe.com// before any product URL. And Dupe will instantly show you similar and more affordable alternatives and different things for that product. And I tell you, as we go to holiday shopping season, it's the perfect thing to do. And look, these aren't like knockoff things. It really goes through the internet using AI to find the best thing, from fashion to gadgets to furniture, all built probably the same factory or the expensive one you're buying. And they're brands they just use different labels, a lot of these products. I mean, I didn't know this for years, but what you're buying at one store may be the exact same thing as another store, but with a different label on it or slightly different materials. A light fixture, for example, or a piece of furniture. So Dupe finds them, or something nearly identical, and then it's a fraction of the price. And it's no wonder the Dupe is going viral all over the place. Millions of people have been checking it out. You guys have been checking it out. This is our second time talking about Dupe. It's a great sponsor of the show. But look, sometimes you find something like 60, 70, or even 80% off, and it's completely free to use. And the holiday season, Dupe is giving away 1 million what they call Dupe points. And you can turn those points straight into gift cards. And here's how it works. You earn Dupe points just by shopping with dupe.com. No payment, no catch, just search for the products you're looking for. You want to save money and you rack up points. And want even more? You just gotta share Dupe with your friends, and then you save and you earn even extra more rewards. It's just piles up. You get gift cards for using it. It helps out you. It helps out you save your budget, and it helps your friend. But here's the kicker. For a limited time, the first 10,000 people who go to dupe.com/Fred will get 500 Dupe points instantly. These are redeemable for gift cards, no catch, but spots are limited. So don't wait now. You're watching the show. It's dupe.com/Fred for 500 free Dupe points today. Use your Dupe points and gift cards to make the most of your holiday shopping. So it's simple, and I'd love you to do it. Just go to dupe.com/Fred, as you see on the screen. I'm not kidding when I say I love this sponsor, okay? I love their products. I love the way it's helped me find cool things. I've been buying about 1 million of these quarter zips lately because it's that time of year. It's, as they say, sweater weather. And so I've been buying sweaters. So you should do it too. That's dupe.com/Fred. Thanks. Starting a business is very hard. You're going through everything with like finding out your logo, building your website, getting your point of sale set up, your inventory, supply chains these days. Don't get me started about that. When my family started a business 12 years ago in a small town in Virginia, that was one of the big challenges we had. How do we find a point of sale that works? How do we run an online store? How does it all integrate with our social media channels and everything else? And we were just glad we finally found a partner that works so well for us. And that's where Shopify comes in. Shopify is a commerce platform behind millions of businesses around the world, and it's 10% of all e-commerce just in the US alone, from household names that like Mattel and Gymshark, to brands just getting started, or brands you should know like Sugar and Spruce in Fredericksburg, Virginia. You can get started your own design studio with hundreds of ready-use templates. Shopify helps you build a beautiful online store to match your brand's style. Now, you accelerate your content creation. Shopify is packed with helpful AI tools that write product descriptions, page headlines, and even enhance your product photography for you. You can get the word out like you have a marketing team behind you. Easily create email and social media campaigns whenever your customers are scrolling or strolling, and it integrates directly into your point of sale system. And best yet, Shopify is your commerce expert with world-class expertise in everything from managing inventory to international shipping to processing returns and beyond. So if you're ready to sell, you're ready for Shopify. So that's where we come in. Turn your big business idea into... That's right. Sign up for your $1 per month trial and start selling today at shopify.com/Fred. That's go to shopify.com/Fred. One more time for those at home, shopify.com/Fred. You can start your business now and grow it successfully. And we're back. Okay. So we left off. They created this thing, Richard. It's a mess, right? I mean, here we are. And now you immediately got, people, not politicians, got stood up. You immediately started collecting signatures to put this back, going back to the beginning of the conversation. Hey, and so how many signatures and where do you have to gather them in Missouri to beat back this law? Let's start there.
Yeah. So Missouri's law, you have to gather, it's a kind of funny formula, but 5% of the last gubernatorial vote in 6 of 8 congressional districts. So it's functionally about 107,000 signatures, and making sure that you have geographic diversity across the state, that you've got to be able to go out and doing that. And so, as I mentioned, we launched about 2 months ago on September 15th, started collecting signatures. We have at this point gathered over 220,000 from including signatures from every single county in the state of Missouri. So it's a broad-based, people-powered movement, getting out here, talking to their neighbors and saying, look, we just think people should be prioritized by our democracy, not politicians. And it's a pretty easy thing to get people to sign.
I bet. Yeah. I mean, the show's on democracy, right? It's like, it is not a partisan thing, is it? At this point, there's a lot of people on both sides that are very frustrated that they're having this jammed down their throat. Because, people forget that some people are actually really happy with their member of Congress, both parties. People can't say like Emmanuel Cleaver. He's done a lot for him. He's brought a lot of money home. He's done a lot of improvement. He's made significant impact on his city from being the mayor to congressman. People are pissed off. They're going to be represented by somebody who lives in Springfield, perhaps. By the same token, there's Republicans who are like, why am I being jammed? I mean, I heard inklings that some of these Republican congressmen were like, I'm not really excited about representing downtown Kansas City. I mean, it is a situation where both sides of the aisle feel like they're being manipulated, don't they?
Yeah. And I think that's what voters recognize, is that we are being treated as pawns in a politician's game. And nobody wants that, even if you're, if you're a Republican voter from the Iowa border, you don't want to be thinking, oh, this district is drawing, and it's functionally using, everyone is getting used in this game by DC interests and politicians. And that's why I think it's been so easy to collect signatures on this. Nobody asks, well, are you a Republican or a Democrat?
Right. It's just, does this make you angry that this power has been taken away from you? We vote for certain things. And so for people who are clear, the Missouri Constitution says, the way they're loopholing this is the Missouri Constitution says a new redistricting will occur after each census, but it doesn't say it can't be done outside. That the loophole they're trying to use is the Constitution doesn't say you can't do more. And so they're using the whole, well, since it does say we can't do it, we're doing it. And there's like 5 lawsuits been filed, right, Richard? I mean, there's 5 different lawsuits, I think 4 in state court and a 5th in federal court. And then you guys filed Alexis. So for setup, the Attorney General of the state, following the footsteps of greats like Josh Hawley and Eric Schmidt, she got appointed again because her predecessor ran to Washington, D.C. And she's suing, saying that we don't have a right to sue to do this initiative petition because a redistricting isn't a law, right? That's one aspect of this, isn't it? So tell us about how that's worked. How her reason.
Yeah, I mean, her lawsuit is a sort of fanciful idea on the right, called independent state legislative theory. And the idea is that only the legislature has the right to regulate Missouri elections. Now, it ignores the fact that, in recent history, we've had Missouri governors veto congressional maps. It ignores the fact, she even in her lawsuit says, Missourians have never imagined that they've had the right to do a referendum on this. And I said, well, in 1922, Missourians have done a referendum 27 times. One of those times was on a congressional gerrymander in 1922. So you have the Attorney General saying we've never had that right. I'm like, not only have we had that right, we have exercised that right in Missouri's history. So, these are fanciful ideas on the right, about ways that you can grab power from citizens and silence citizens, but they're not based in law and they're not based in history, in the history of this state. So,
President state,
what you functionally have is imagine you live in a state where the Attorney General is trying to take away your right to petition your government. I mean, we are talking basic, American civics 101, freedom of speech, petition your government for redress. And we have an Attorney General who is on the wrong side of that. And it's shameful.
But it goes another step. The Secretary of State's doing it too, right? So we have Secretary of State Danny Hoskins. So the way it works, folks, in Missouri, if I'm correct, and correct me if I'm wrong, Richard, is that the Secretary of State is the guy who actually decides what the ballot language will be. So I know it sounds funny to folks, but if you think about it, you've gone to the ballot box to vote on an initiative or a law, whatever it may be, the wording matters. Because, let's face it, a lot of people, they're not real right into what's going on. They go into the ballot and they just read, lots of times they're reading it for their first time. So one of the games they like to play here in Missouri, we know, is they try to make it, we call it ballot candy. We try to manipulate the words. So instead of saying this ballot, this initiative will make it legal to have an abortion, let's say this choice takes away parents' rights, right? And so take us to where the Secretary of State's playing games with you guys on this ballot initiative. Now, two ways, right? One, the ballot language, but more importantly, he put out a statement saying that you guys actually had started collecting signatures too soon. And here's where it gets really fun, folks. He's actually saying that you could be criminally liable for collecting those signatures, right? I mean, it kind of walk us through this nutty aspect of it.
Yeah. So on the ballot summary piece, you're absolutely right. Like the Secretary of State gets to write the language, but there's a requirement that the language, be fair, unbiased, and not prejudice voters one way or the other on the issue. What is the role of the Secretary of State as an administrator of elections? He has the right to have an opinion about the issue, and he can certainly campaign on it, but he should not use his public role to try to manipulate the elections. He actually just sent us language yesterday with his proposed language. It is ludicrous. It describes the previous map as a gerrymander designed to protect incumbents. I should point out that the previous map was passed by the very Republican legislators that Denny Hoskins was in the legislature.
He was one of them. That's your BB to it. He held past it, right? Oh, that's weird. He changed his mind in 2 years.
Yeah. So you have, there's going to be games there. So that's going to be lawsuit number 7. It's going to come out on this. But the more disturbing thing for me that Secretary of State Hoskins is doing is, you're right, this allegation and threat he made meant to intimidate and silence voters and activists in Missouri. What he did, so the Constitution in Missouri says you can do a referendum on an act of the General Assembly or a bill. Those are the two words. And so what we did is we filed a referendum on a bill. He's saying, no, you can't do that. You have to wait until it's a law, until the governor signs it. Well, that doesn't actually exist in the Constitution. It does not use the word law anywhere. It says act of a General Assembly or the bill. So he is trying to say, you guys got started too early. You delayed this process. And then, you didn't give me enough time to approve the form. Again, this is an administrative duty. It's not a partisan act. It should just be the role of a public servant. Now, I will say, every single signature that we have gathered is on a form that he himself has approved, that he says this is correct. And so every single signature is on a thing that he's saying, yeah, this is the correct form. But his allegations have not only intimidated voters and suggested that they're doing something wrong by exercising the First Amendment right, which is ludicrous. He is also arbitrarily challenging the validity of 92,000 signatures that were gathered in the first 5 weeks or so of this campaign. He is wanting to silence those Missourians' voices.
And the intimidation factor is fascinating. I mean, the goal is to make people think like they're in trouble because they signed, and they'll be afraid, they'll start trying to pull their signatures off and do that. And you just went to court, so you sued about that, correct? And I think you just had, I'm looking at my notes, I think you just had a ruling or postponement yesterday. So a group called, was it Putting Missouri First, which is funded by the GOP, Republican National Party, a Missouri PAC, is suing to get involved in this lawsuit, correct? So you guys just had a ruling yesterday. Tell us about that latest and the games being played right here in the state courts.
Yeah, I mean, Put Missouri First is a PAC that has two donors that we have seen. The RNC and the Republican Congressional Campaign Committee. And so yesterday, in less than 24 hours notice, they sought to intervene in this case that had already previously been delayed because the judge was ill. And so they intervened yesterday and said, we're ready to go. We're ready to argue this case. Said, okay. And then the minute that they were in, they said, well, actually, we're not ready to go. We don't agree to some issues that had been stipulated between the state and us, people, not politicians. They said, we want to do some discovery. So they immediately go back on their word and say, we want to delay this. And when the judge, I think, correctly ruled, everyone's here today, we're going to move the case forward. They asked to change judges, which is their right, but, is also simply a delay tactic. It is simply a delay tactic. I mean, they are, the judge that we were going to argue in front of is frankly a conservative judge. He's a Republican judge.
Right.
But because that judge said, we're actually going to give people their day in court today while everybody's here, they said, no, that's not acceptable. We're going to delay this even further. And, my take on this is, I understand we're in a legal dispute. And when you're in a legal dispute, if you think you are right, you want to have your day in court. Right. You want to have this resolved. We are very confident that we are right. And so we are ready to go. Yep. But it is the other side, the side that is trying to silence Missouri voters, that I think know that their argument is frankly ludicrous. Yep. And so what are they going to do? They're going to try to delay and hope that it is an unresolved issue. And then, we'll see what the next step is that they take. But it's an act of cowardice and it's an act of desperation.
Yep, it is. So I'll wrap. I know you got a lot to do. You try and gather hundreds of thousands. So what's the next step in the process? What's the timeline from here? And let's say you do succeed, and which you will. You get all these signatures accepted. I know you're over gathering, right? You're going to gather probably 500,000 at this rate. What's the next step in the process, and what's the timeline from here?
Yeah, I mean, we continue to gather because frankly, Missourians continue to tell us every day, oh, I've been looking for this. Oh, I've been meaning to sign this. Oh, thank you for coming. So we're going to continue to gather because it's what people want to do. the signatures are due on December 11th. We're going to turn in more than enough signatures needed to qualify on December 11th. And then, it's the Secretary of State's job, again, to make sure that these signatures,
Constitutional duty.
whether it's by his office or by the local election authorities, I honestly don't care. Review them, make sure they're right. They will be. They'll be in the right districts that are needed. And then let's put this issue on the ballot and let's have a vote on it. It's, again, one of these things, politicians are freaking out about this, but if you think what you did was in the best interests of Missourians, you should not fear Missourians having an opportunity to weigh in on that. Their actions are what actually show that they know that they did something that is unpopular, was undemocratic, and that they should be ashamed of. And they are. And so they're going to do everything they can to try to keep it from seeing the light of day.
It is a frustrating time. And, we talked about the Utah case. You saw, so Utah, their state judge there threw out the Republican map, right? I mean, you guys take hope from that, from the courts and all. I mean, that just happened, I think, this week as well, right? I mean, you've got the court options and you've got the petition options. I mean, you feel optimistic this is going to win, right? You're going to stop this.
Yeah. I mean, I feel optimistic, and I feel optimistic in the legal case, but at the end of the day, I am one who personally believes, like, you actually win the battle for democratic values and norms, like, in the streets, not in the courtroom. The courtrooms are important. I believe in that. It's one of the pillars of American government. But for me and the movement of Missourians that I lead, we're going to go win this in the hearts and minds of our neighbors.
Yeah, that's a great place to wrap up, because that's the energy we talk about a lot here on the show. We're seeing the energy. We're seeing that people are frustrated. That's why I had the No Kings protest. I mean, you're seeing the blue wave that just occurred across the country. There's a real energy to oppose these oppressive moves by the Republicans and the Trump administration and others. So you're going to ride that wave. So Richard, thanks for all your time. I took longer than we were supposed to. I appreciate it. I know my audience appreciates learning some more about how these. And look, the reason we tell this story about Missouri here on the show, on a national show, is because you're next. Right? This is what they're doing everywhere. Texas got away with it. They're trying to do it in other red states. Ohio's trying to get away with it. Indiana is trying to get away with it. We are just all part of this movement, and this is how Missouri's fighting. So Richard, good luck. Thanks for your time today, and I sure will be in touch and keep track of this operation. I appreciate you. See you soon.
All right.
Oh, I forgot the most important. I forgot the most important part. Where can people, oh my God, where can people help? Where can people donate? Oh, we don't want to let you go without doing that. So tell us, where can people volunteer? I got the website up on the screen now. Where can people help, Richard? Oh God, I almost screwed that up. That's why I suck at this job. Go ahead.
Yep. People can go to our website, peoplenotpoliticiansmo.org. And it's down there on the bottom of the screen for you. And you can sign up to volunteer to help gather signatures. It's a fun process. We give you a nice training to go out and do that with your neighbors. You can make a contribution to the effort. Make sure that our volunteers, have pens and all the paper that we need to print and a bottle of water for while they're out. Any way that you choose to participate in our democracy and help support the effort, we appreciate you. We have thousands of volunteers, both, gathering signatures and making donations, and it takes everybody. And so, I thank everyone for their help.
Yeah. I think
peoplenotpoliticiansmo.org.
There it is. I think you got almost 4,000 volunteers gathering signatures. I mean, I think that's just an insane number of people spread out across the state of Missouri. So good luck to you. Thank God remembered that. Folks, support them. I'll let you go now. Thanks, Richard. Have a great day.
All right. Thanks so much, Fred.
A great conversation, Richard. A little bit of the weeds, the more than we usually do, but I really want you guys to see just what we're battling here in Missouri and the model you'll see across country. Utah, as I mentioned, just beat back their own version of it, where the state court stopped it. The amazing part of that story is the state judge blocked the Republican map gerrymander, and they're threatening to impeach him. The Speaker of the Utah Republican House is threatening to impeach the judge. They learned that lesson from somebody, didn't they? I mean, they didn't. Yeah, they learned it from somebody. Like if the judges don't do what you want them to do, if they enforce the laws they have read it and learned their entire lives, you'll be threatened. And so it'll be interesting to see this unfold here in Missouri as these judges, various judges across the state, and of course federal court. We've been getting help from Mark Elias and a number of national organizations to fight this. I don't believe in my heart they're going to win. I don't believe this thing is going to go on there. And what Richard didn't mention is if they do succeed, if they do get on the ballot, the governor will have to make a choice of when to put it on the ballot. If he waits till it's frozen until the next election. So the original maps as we have them now with Emmanuel Cleaver in the 5th district will go through to the next election. That'll be the midterm. So it's a big fight right here, all for one seat. And I want to talk about that part the most at the end. They burned a lot of political capital here in Missouri. They made a lot of people angry. What Richard doesn't really go into because he's not partisan is people are pissed, folks. Like I go out in the streets and, I've got that other job I'm doing and people are angry, and not just Democrats. Republicans are angry. They know they're being used as a tool for politicians way outside our state. Missouri's the show me state. And then that comes from, I told you before, it comes from the idea that we're not going to be told what to do. You have to show me the facts. Your flowery language, your ideas don't help. So to tell us that this is a Missouri first map that was produced here in Missouri and then have massive mistakes like this one that I showed you earlier, where if they create this Missouri, how can they miss the fact they put one precinct in 2 different congressional districts at the same time? I mean, you can't tell me it's a Missouri map. You don't even know what's happening in Missouri. How can it be a Missouri map that they designed if the people who designed it didn't know that vertical line on the left of your screen is the old red line in Kansas City, where Black Americans, Black Missourians were not allowed to buy a property to the west of that line. And they have the audacity to say it's not a racially gerrymandered seat when they use the actual red line street, historically documented, to draw the map and put those Black voters in a seat that goes all the way to the Arkansas border. The audacity. And that's why we're seeing through that. That's why the show me state's not buying it. So look, they burned a lot of political capital in the state with their own voters. Their own vote. Look, and I can tell you something else. I don't think the voters down there on the Arkansas border want to be voting with downtown Kansas City. Let's be honest. What do they have in common? So this is stupid beyond measure. But that's how it's going. That's how it's going across the country. That's why Pam Bondi is trying to sue California. Is she suing Ohio? Is she suing Indiana? She's not suing Missouri. And the punchline of that whole story that we bring it back to at the end of that opening clip is she's saying it was clearly racially gerrymandered when they used the racial line in St. Louis, in Kansas City, to draw the line. But she's not suing Missouri. She's not suing Missouri. That's all you need to know. So we'll keep an eye on this. Obviously, I have a stake in it in my life, but more importantly, it's a stake for all of us. Thank you for joining me here on Friday night. As always, it's school season. It's coming up on the holidays. So much more to come. As always, if you want to keep up what's going on all around the country, and of course here in Missouri, what I'm doing, another thing I'm doing, go to my Substack. It's fpwellman.substack.com. I'd be honored if you guys consider it's totally free to join. You don't have to sign up. You don't have to pay. Our Substack is totally free to keep up with our work that we're doing outside of the show. That's fpwellman.substack.com. All of our social media, all those places. We'd love to have you follow us. As always, so proud to be in the Meisters. Thank you to our sponsors, Dupe and Shopify, my favorite sponsors I have. You can't beat them. Make sure you check them out. In the meantime, look, I'm Fred Wellman. We're going to keep up the fight, and I'll see you next week. Thanks.